Oops. No, I didn't want to do that. I wanted to put in the episode number and everything.
We are broadcasting.
Oh, well. Okay. Well, if we're broadcasting, I'm going to start showing a little bit of, in fact, I can hear myself. There we go. Turn that off, and I got to share our screen, and then we're going to show the everybody's favorite intro. Share computer sound so we can hear the loud music. And here we go. And good evening, everybody. It's Tuesday, February 6th, 2018, and you're back for the first episode of AWT TV for February, and the first in, what, 3 weeks, Marty?
3 weeks. Anybody doesn't know, we've gone to just first and third Tuesdays and just happened to skip one this time because there was 5 Tuesdays in January.
It was a weird month. It was, we had a blue moon. We had a, whatever the heck you call it, a
lunar eclipse.
Super moon. We had a super eclipse all on, what was that, the 30th or 31st?
Yeah. Now you got me coughing. None the better.
And it's contagious.
I know it's been busy, and if anyone, I hope a lot, read our site. I haven't seen your name as much. People don't know. Dennis did mention it, but Steve lost his dad within the last week.
Yeah, Dad was, this was last Thursday, February 1st, and Dad was 88 years old. He'd been really having issues, health issues for quite some time, and they just got kind of got the best of him. Fortunately, my wife and myself and my mom were able to be close to him, very close to his death, and I think it helped him pass comfortably. So we're hoping that he was definitely calm and feeling loved when he passed.
Well, that's good. And events such as that put into perspective the things we do tech are very temporary, to say the least.
Yes, they are. Yeah.
And this is going to tie back to your dad. But I told you I had found online my latest toy, a MacBook Air. And it runs great. I'm just washing out the screen. The brightness is. It runs so good. It plays World of Warcraft better than the Mac Mini, and it really runs good. It's a 2010 model. It really runs good. I bought it sight unseen with a few pictures from just some guy I've never met, but it's perfect. I bought it from Steve. And so, Steve, your dad will live on in a way because this was your dad's computer and he could no longer use it. So Steve sold it to me, and I've already gotten so much use. What I'm doing is making it my experimental Mac. When I want to load some software that I don't want on my main one, I'm just loading it and trying it, and I can erase it and everything. And so it runs good. It's got the backlit logo that I love so well, and so it's going to be a great Mac, and I appreciate you letting me purchase that.
Well, and it worked out beautifully because I did not need another computer. So, and, like I said, Dad, he kind of got to the point that he just really, I hate to say it, but really kind of forgot how to use a computer, and things just got very, very difficult for him. So I'm glad not only that it's getting used, but it's being used by somebody I know and consider to be a very good friend. So,
Well, likewise, and he even accepted a check. As you do like me, I couldn't help but notice on the back of the check that you apparently took a picture of it and deposited it, mobile
yes, I did.
deposit. I saw that, and so I do the same thing. But I appreciate you selling that to me because I know it's probably part of your dad. You hate to let go, but it'll have a good home. It's in pristine condition. There is not one scratch on it. It's showroom, condition. And you'd think a 2010 Mac wouldn't run things well, but it's an SSD drive in it, and so it's very snappy. And I'm very pleased with it, and I've gotten a lot of use just experimenting, playing, and just really like it a lot.
It's funny when I got that back from him. That was about I think 2 weeks before he passed. I actually, I kept thinking, oh, there's no way this thing is going to run High Sierra. And I went out to the Apple site, and actually, there's a way that you can go in and you grab the serial number, you put it in, and it tells you, what model it is and all that good stuff. And I did that, and it came up and it said, "Yeah, we'll run High Sierra." And I went, "No, can't do that." Loaded it, and I was frankly surprised at how well it ran High Sierra. When you consider that that's a machine that's 8 years old.
I was very impressed with how it runs High Sierra, and I did load World of Warcraft because I enjoy playing it, and I did not even think it would probably boot. It plays it better than, like I said, the 2014 Mac Mini because of the solid state drive. Often I have to wait for load screens. I can measure in a minute or two, sometime with a spinning hard drive. That's measured in mere seconds. But everything I've thrown at it, but there's been some utilities I've wanted to try that I didn't really want to put on this Mac. And so I'm using it, and then I'll probably eventually format it and reinstall and do that over and over. And so it runs extremely well.
Well, you didn't get the iMac Pro, but you got this, so that's excellent.
Well, I'm still in line for the Mac Pro as soon as it comes out. But I think that's just a testament to how well Macs hold up, not just their value, but how long they last. Because their hardware that's 8 years old is running the latest operating system. It's quite snappy. I wouldn't mind using that at all in travels, or if I had to give a demo and send it to a screen or something. I can't actually, it won't AirPlay because of some of the hardware. I learned that.
Oh, okay.
But that's no problem. The seller was gracious enough to throw in a couple of dongles. One is USB to Ethernet, which I use all the time, and the other is I guess it would have been USB. It doesn't have Thunderbolt. May have had an old Thunderbolt to VGA. There's, I hope your cats are okay. I think they went to sunk bump. It sounds like.
No, they're. I don't know.
But I thought it was sort of fitting to mention all that as we began, since that was your dad's computer, and your dad since has passed on, and so his computer is going to live on here and really get a lot of use. Maybe I'm just old timey, but I tend to get a little sentimental. I will never get rid of it once I have it. I tend to keep things. I do not tend to cycle and resell. If they work, I like keeping them. So I'm sure I'll have that for probably till the end. But
eons, as they say.
But thanks for selling it to me, letting me buy it, and it has surpassed my expectations much so, and very good laptop.
Cool. I'm really glad. Glad to hear that. It's kind of cool to see. Somewhat. I think what a lot of people would consider, obsolete technology, and it's working absolutely great. And I got to talk about one thing that happened today that, honestly, I found much more exciting than the Super Bowl. And I'm talking about an event that took place today. It was the first flight of SpaceX's Falcon Heavy. Now, this has nothing to do with Macs, but it has everything to do with technology. And my wife and I had, you'll be glad to know I did buy an Apple TV 4K.
Oh, okay,
We,
good.
we still don't have a 4K TV, but we have it hooked up to our old Panasonic Viera flat screen plasma TV. And I knew that it was going to be streamed by SpaceX on YouTube. So about 15 minutes before launch, I went ahead, fired up the Apple TV, and we watched it on the big screen. And I tell you that, you're talking about something that is now, at this particular point in time, it is the largest heavy lifter that on the planet. That'll be surpassed if the Space Launch System, NASA's heavy lifter, goes next year. But you talk about sheer excitement. You see this thing launch. That was 5.5 million pounds of thrust. That's pretty exciting. They could launch. If, they won't do it because nobody would let them, but they could launch a fully loaded 737 jetliner with, gas or fuel on it, luggage, passengers, crew, everything into low Earth orbit. That's how powerful this thing is. And anyway, the launch went beautifully. The two side boosters came down and landed almost simultaneously on pads right there at the Cape. Unfortunately, we did find out just a few minutes ago that the core vehicle actually didn't land on the barge that they had out there, the robo ship. So that was sad. But the cool thing was seeing Elon Musk's red Tesla Roadster with a mannequin in it in a SpaceX spacesuit, sitting there with his arm out the window in orbit around the Earth. And at about 8:30 this evening, I believe it is, they're supposed to do the third firing of the second stage. If that's successful, this will go into a large interplanetary elliptical orbit that will go out as far as Mars and kind of come in towards the Earth's orbit. They aren't, some people have said, oh, they're sending it to Mars. Why are they doing that? That's not the plan. They're just planning on sending it way out there, and to show people that you can take a heck of a weight and you can launch it into space and with one of these rockets. So congratulations to that team for pulling off an unbelievable technological feat.
It is pretty amazing. It's interesting you bring it up. You'd commented a while ago, and I appreciate it. You count me as a good friend, and you as well. After we got to know each other, I'm a little stunned at how many hobbies we have in common. Because I really I've always enjoyed space and astronomy. That was my first love. We're both amateur operators. We both have weather stations and all the Apple stuff. It's almost a little uncanny. So, and we both have Apple 4K TVs, but I've got a 4K TV. You need to get one. It's really stunning.
That'll be the next, sometime this year. Maybe next Christmas we'll do something like that. I don't know. Hey, speaking of technological fun, and I know we're going to talk about Apple topics here because we really haven't talked too much about Apple recently.
Yeah, we got 3 weeks worth to talk about.
I'm going to show everybody something that is a little odd, but you guys know that I'm kind of becoming a drone fanatic. And I'm writing a review for a new site that is called Drone World Today that I started up. And it's about this. And let me see if I can lift this thing up. Now you're probably saying, what is Steve doing with a dinosaur egg? And this is actually a drone, believe it or not. This is called the Power Egg. It's from a company called Power Vision. And I love this because they even include a little stand because this is not light. I have to laugh because you take a look at a lot of the drones that are made by DJI and they're extremely lightweight and everything. This thing weighs about 4 pounds. And let me see if I can get this. whoops, see, I'll open it up here. But as you can see, the motors and the propellers are out on the edge of these little arms here. And these things will extend. And I'm definitely not going to fly it in here because I'd probably kill myself and the cats. But down in the bottom down here, and there's right now a little foam thing that's holding it in place here. But there's a 3-direction gimbaled camera that shoots 4K. So very powerful camera. You've got the 4 props. And in case you're wondering what these are, I don't know if you can actually see that there, but you notice there's lines here.
Right.
These are landing legs that actually come down, and before a flight, it'll prop the device up so it's sitting on the ground here. You start it up. I don't have a battery in it, but you start it up and it takes off. The landing legs fold in, and then it's cruising around, you know, a flying egg, so to speak. Very, very cool unit. I can't wait to get out and fly it. I think it's going to be not only a lot of fun, but I think it's actually probably one of the sturdier drones that I've had the opportunity to actually work with lately. So it'll be a fun review. I'm sure we're going to do it on not only Drone World Today, which is, by the way, at droneworld.today, but also on Apple World Today. I'll make sure that we get that review out there as well. And anyway, very, very cool. Or you can use it as football if you want to.
Yeah, that's it's not the exact form factor I expect when I think of a drone, you know.
Yeah, it's very different. Oddly enough, it's been around for I think a little over a year, and there hasn't been a lot of word about it. The company that makes these also creates underwater drones, and well, they've got one that goes underwater. It's like a submarine drone, and they have another one, and I think that one's called the Power Ray, and then there's another one that actually goes on the surface, almost like a drone boat. So, you know, fascinating company. You know, we don't hear much about them, but I'm hoping that things will change. Hopefully, we'll get a lot of people excited about the review, and they'll go out and check these out because it looks pretty cool.
So that's droneworld.today. Sounds like another site.
Yeah, unfortunately, I haven't been doing a tremendous amount of updates there either because of, you know, the recent situations have kind of put a hold on doing a lot of writing and things. So.
Well, I've just been mostly keeping up with the Apple news, and I know you and I both like to tinker and old school. I guess you've seen, I've got a few notes here, but Mac OS server is going to be all but degraded and nearly canceled. So I sort of hate to hear that, that they're really almost getting out of the server market.
Well, you know, in a way I can see why they're doing it. In another way, it kind of tells me that they're just kind of rolling over and giving up. The way I can understand it is that a lot of the services that are provided by Mac OS server at this point, you can actually get much better, you know, ease of use, setup, administrative tools, and things like that, using third-party tools that are available. And you know, I think they were looking at a very small and shrinking market. It probably, you know, required quite a bit of development time, and of course having people constantly looking at it in terms of security, and they probably said, is this really worthwhile? Now the word is from Apple that they are actually going to try to make Mac OS server a little bit more oriented towards, as they put it, administration and management of mobile devices. And frankly, I think they're going to lose out in that market because there's already one very good management tool that you and I are both really familiar with.
Yeah, Jamf.
You got it.
That
Exactly.
is, Ruby and I covered their conference in Minnesota in October, and it's very impressive software of managing Mac tools. If you're not familiar with it, it's JAMF, and you need to check that out. You can manage from, one or two Macs to thousands, hundreds of thousands in your organization. Reboot them, update them, whatever you need to do. It's pretty impressive software.
Well, to be honest with you, I think the smartest possible thing that Apple could do is actually buy Jamf.
Yeah.
And from one standpoint, I'd hate to see that happen because Jamf has been a very innovative company. They have awesome technical support. Their marketing department, as we well know, is incredible, and they offer a tremendous product. So in a way, I'd kind of say, well, I hope Apple doesn't do that. On the other hand, if Apple really wanted to get best of breed management, device management tool, Jamf would do it. And Apple, I think, might have enough money to buy that company.
They probably could. And so you and I, this is a recurring theme. I'm going to, I feel like a lot of times Apple's spreading themselves too thin, wanting to be a net TV network, and music mogul and everything. But that's neither here nor there. They're going to do. And, but that really brings me to my next point that I was going to mention. iOS 12, the rumors are really going to focus on security and stability without many new features.
Yeah.
And I've been reminded, I've got videos of it, but I'm not going to show now. I was just sitting here using my iPhone about 3 or 4 days ago. Suddenly, I could not open any app. No icons would respond. Nothing. I couldn't do anything. And except slide over to, I could slide over to the widgets, but nothing would open. It took a hard reboot. Then today I went to take a picture of something, open the camera, black screen, couldn't take a picture at all. And it never resolved itself until I did a restart. And those are the kind of issues that, not used to Apple having. There's been a lot of failure of the software here lately. And, I've recorded and got those documented, Yeah.
It'd be great if they would, spend a year and just really focus on performance and getting rid of the bugs.
I had to admit, of course, I absolutely love iOS, but version 11 has been really buggy on the iPhone 7 for me. Perhaps I'll just push it hard, always opening things. But, like today, the camera refusing to open up until I did a restart. And that was only on a 2-day since I'd restarted just 2 or 3 days ago. And usually you can go a lot longer. And so it was a little odd. If it was a picture I really needed of, some rare animal that had not been documented by modern man, he would have been gone because, the camera wouldn't even open up. I found out later it's just a black screen. I actually could take a picture with the volume down button, but I didn't realize it at first.
Oh, that is weird.
Yeah, it's odd.
Well, there's, I think I've commented, and strangely enough, I don't have it with me because I was using it to help me cook earlier. And I'm talking about my iPhone 10. But
I thought you were talking about Barb there for a moment there.
But there's one thing about the iPhone 10 that I find myself doing way too often, and that's making accidental screenshots. A lot of times I'll just be picking it up to do something, and I happen to just hit the power button and the whatever it is. I think it's the volume up button at the same time, and it'll take a screenshot. So I end up going to my photo library, and I'm going, why do I have 3 screenshots of this? Why is this happening? So I think they might want to think about that gesture a little bit. Maybe just rethink that.
Well, I do really like iOS, of course, but I've read so much and seen so many videos about the graphical bugs And I've really been seeing them the last couple of weeks. I don't know if it was introduced by an update or an app that I have, but there are some issues, but I'm sure they'll get it worked out. So I hope they make iOS 12 the snow leopard of iOS. You know, snow leopard, they said, was one of the most
Ooh,
robust.
Snow Leopard was awesome. You know,
Well,
it was one that just never seemed to really have all that many problems. So
well, that's what I've read. I wasn't into Macs then, but
we can only hope that they're
yeah.
working. Yeah,
Well, I
the
was see if this screen will pop up here that I might share. A lot of people probably don't realize this, and let me share one screen with you real quick here. And do you know you can still
there it is.
purchase Snow Leopard from Apple?
Hey, for only $19.99.
I'm thinking about doing it and installing it on this Mac that I got from you just to play with. You know, it
Hey,
must be.
but
I don't. Yeah,
do you have the external USB DVD drive?
I do. Actually, my wife does for her Mac, and so
Awesome.
it's unavailable for pickup. Order it today, and you know, before they start carrying that, I thought about loading it just to play with. You know, for $20. Skip one meal at the Mexican restaurant and buy this instead.
I'd
So,
rather eat at the Mexican restaurant.
but I just thought I would share that Snow Leopard OS X 10.6, you can still buy it for sale. And so
That's absolutely amazing. I was totally unaware of that.
I
That's
was too until this week. And so my wife's birthday's next month. She might get Snow Leopard for her birthday. I don't
you're
know.
treading on thin ice there,
Yeah.
sir.
Yeah. Her birthday's St. Patrick's Day. So I'll
Well, I
find
was going to say
something.
the other
Yeah.
thing, you know, it would make a wonderful Valentine's Day present.
Oh yeah, snow leopard as always. Always good. But well, last year we got the MacBook Pro for her the day after her birthday because her computer went out, and so that made a good birthday present. I can't believe it's been nearly a year since we got that.
Wow.
And that brings me to my next point. There's rumors that Apple's going to maybe have a hardware event in March.
Yes, which I thought was not only totally cool, but it kind of gets me. I won't say it's getting me excited, but we need something. We honestly do, especially if it maybe brings a new Mac Mini.
Yeah, that would be great. I like the Mac Mini. I'm hoping for the Mac Pro, but I don't think they'll release it that close to the iMac Pro. I think they'll want to stagger it.
Yeah, and then there's some talk about possibly a updated MacBook.
I even saw rumors of a new Mac or iPad Mini. And so, in a way, I sort of doubt that because I think they're leaving that form factor behind with the phones pushing near that size. That's just really too much. You know, there's not enough differentiation between the largest phone and the next iPad, but who knows? They might. It's
You know who's
popular.
buying a lot of iPad Mini 4s?
Who's that?
Drone pilots,
Really? Yeah.
DJI drone pilots,
Well,
because
that makes sense.
DJI Go, which is the app that you can use, basically it kind of ties into the remote controller, and then through the remote controller will control your device. But it runs really, really well on a Mini 4. And I don't know how many times I'm on a couple of forums, and I don't know how many times I've seen people say, "Hey, I just went out and bought an iPad Mini 4. I got it on sale for $299, and this is all I'm going to use it for." So I think that's it's a popular form factor in that it is bigger than even like an iPhone 7 Plus or iPhone 8 Plus. And it's inexpensive. You can look at that. Speaking of which, this is totally off the subject, but I got to bring this up. Barb and I have been spending quite a few hours over at our local rec center. and just kind of trying to do some exercising, get ourselves into better shape. We're actually in February and we're still doing it, so that's a miracle. But today I saw a woman wearing whatever the largest Samsung phone is in one of those arm packs.
Right.
And I swear it looked like she was carrying a 2x4 on her arm. It was the most bizarre thing. I felt like saying, look, I've got this. It does the same thing.
Yeah. Probably the Galaxy Note.
It's huge. I mean, that thing it looked like it was about yay big. I mean, it looked like an iPad mini strapped to her arm. It was weird.
It's not much size difference. And you were talking about drone pilots using those. It's a lot better to hold than the 9.5, iPad. That size is really good. And honestly, if you're wearing pants that have loose pockets, like they're pleated, the iPad mini will fit in those front pockets pretty good.
Yeah.
And so it's really, it's a perfect size. My wife has one. We bought one for her last year and, really enjoys it. She bought one of those, I want to call it moleskin covers, but it's probably more of a French pronunciation of
I think moleskin. I love moleskin, but I think they pronounce it moleskina. But I agree with you. Moleskin sounds much better.
In Kentucky, it's moleskin. And that's
in Colorado, it's moleskin.
But I was looking for I thought, well, we bought it at the Apple store, her iPad mini, and I thought I want to get a good cover, and they carried those there, and it's been absolutely perfect. It makes it look like a book, and it's got the little strap that holds it closed. And she really likes that a lot. So anyway, it's really a great size. I like the iPad mini a lot. So
yeah, it would be kind of cool if they bumped it in terms of processor and things like that. Hey, this is another item that's totally off topic, but I was doing some research on a totally unrelated topic here a while back, and I happened to see something about a company, and I wish I could remember the name of it right now, but it's escaping me here. But there's a company out of Massachusetts that's got a production facility, and they're building batteries that essentially have twice the power density of lithium ion or lithium polymer batteries, which means that you could either have a battery that would last the same amount of time in something like an iPhone 10 or an iPhone 11, whatever it happens to be, or you could have, that would weigh half as much, or you could have a battery that weighs the same that would give you 2 times the battery life. This company started off building, I'm not sure exactly what the first market was, but then they went into the aerospace business. Batteries in aerospace are huge. I don't know if you remember the issues with the first 787s, where they were actually grounded for a while because they were using lithium ion batteries, and actually because that's a very electric plane, they're getting rid of a lot of hydraulics. They're using electric actuators instead. So they have this big bank of batteries, and they had some issues early on where these battery packs were catching on fire, which is not a good thing on an airplane. Well, they managed to determine a way of fixing that. But if you can imagine, for instance, in the aerospace business where pounds are dollars, I mean, if you can scrap 100 pounds of weight or 200 pounds of weight on an airplane, you save a tremendous amount of fuel over a really long flight. So, a company that can produce a battery that gives you twice the power and the same amount of weight, or allows you to have less weight and the same amount of power, amazing. So I'm hoping we start seeing these, they call them lithium metal batteries, and hopefully we'll start seeing those in our Apple products here soon, I hope.
Yeah, that's been, I guess, the holdback of a lot of the technology is the battery technology. It's really been slow. Of course, you've been around enough with electronics, ham radio stuff, and the handhelds we used to have. It all started out with, NiCad batteries and,
Yeah.
yeah.
NiCads.
Yeah. A lot of the
The
problems
horrible
with
memory
those.
problems.
It was. I even kept a chart of whenever I would charge and discharge batteries to try to make them run down. Each one would have a number, and I would try to cycle them to get the best life out of them. And so that has been, and of course, lithium ion are so much better. Um, Sort of in that note, I just bought about 3 weeks ago a flip phone. It's for my mother. She had a flip phone, and she was hospitalized for a while, and it fell on the floor and totally broke it. So she needed another phone.
Oof.
So I went to the store and got her. I'm not pronouncing this right, but a Caracia. You know the company I'm talking about. You've probably seen it. It's Kyocera, I think.
Oh, yeah.
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 It's like moleskin. I didn't pronounce it near right. I know.
I think it's Kyocera, but
yeah.
But hey, it was close enough. I knew what you were talking about.
That reminds me of clear pancake syrup for some reason. Well, that's K-Rosa. But we bought one for the whole company here, Bluegrass Cellular. They had one in stock. I had gone to a store 40 miles north. They said, we don't have it, but there's another 50 miles south of us. So we drove about 100 miles that way to get it. And they held it for me. And so we got it. And it's one of the ones that's made to military specs. It's really durable, supposed to, not shatter. She were to drop it, and really loud speaker, and which helps her. Nice. But got it home when she had been, had to be gone for a while for some rehab, and charged it. And I thought, I'm going to see if it goes. The first week we had it home, I only had to charge it once a week. And so, wow. Yeah, I know it wasn't even run down. I charged it Thursday night before last, and this was Thursday or Friday. I went ahead and topped it off because it was down to 1 bar. But that's the kind of battery life I'd like to see from an iPhone. And
yeah, so, I would. I almost wish they would get back to that, because I can recall, the first cell phones were horrible because they used, I think, just standard. It was kind of like the standard. I am trying to even think of almost like alkaline batteries, and they were horrible in terms of life. My first brick that I got from Motorola, that thing, you were lucky on a charge if you could get a half hour of use. But then it kept getting better and better and better and better. And I can remember some of those, especially the Nokia, little guys, the little candy bar phones, we called them. Those things were amazing because you could go, you could charge them up once a week, and
you're right,
they would just chug along. And we've kind of gotten into this bad habit. We've got all this power and all these great things that we can do, but, at the expense of always having to be, having that thought in the back of the brain, should I plug it in?
I keep power cables pretty much desk and chair and by the bed and the automobiles. We've touched on this before, but I think there's a few things that Apple could do to make batteries last a little longer. There's a company that had been working on, I certainly don't know the name now, where the glass on your iPhone actually had some embedded solar screens that could not be seen.
Yes.
And just ambient light would help give you a little bit extra charge. And this goes back to technology of the 70s. You remember the watches that were self-winding with the movement, something like that, a little dynamo that with your movement could just give a charge. Even if you only, between those two, added 30 minutes to an hour a day, it could really add up.
Yeah. And, you think about the back of our iPhones, a lot of people, of course, they put a case on them, but, let's say that you happen to put, some sort of really efficient solar panel on the back of that, because these things, they can basically roll out nowadays. You don't have to have something that's that thick, but you put that on the back of an iPhone, and then you tell everybody, hey, you can get an extra hour per day if you put your phone face down, on your desk, or leave it out on your desk, do something like this. And, if you need a case, use one that's got a clear back.
That's really a great idea that I had not considered. There's a lot of real estate back here that could really, and, quite a few square inches. I do not wear an Apple Watch regular. I've got one.
Shame on you. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, the watch I wear is a Timex Wave Scepter. And the reason I like it so well, it's got a little solar panel. It always, charges itself by light. It's been running for years. And then every morning, it starts at 1 a.m. It gets a signal from Colorado and sets the time.
WWV.
That's right. And if it doesn't, it tries 5 times and it'll set it each time. So it keeps perfect time. So I really like that because I never have to charge or wind or need a battery. So if we can get our phones to that point, it's going to be pretty good.
It's kind of interesting. I still have not done a review of this. There was a smartwatch that somebody wanted me to write a review of, and I got to admit the software, the interface, the problem I had with it was that if I was wearing my Apple Watch and this other watch at the same time, they conflicted all the time, and it was like, I'm sorry, I'm stuck with my Apple Watch. I really hate to put it away just so I can write a review about this other watch. But this watch was what they call a hybrid. In other words, it has some of the capabilities of almost like a traditional watch, in that it can last for years on a single charge. Plus, it has some of the capabilities of a smartwatch. In other words, it can display information about upcoming meetings, weather, different things like that. But I thought it was kind of an interesting meld there of the two worlds. Having a traditional watch that even if the smartwatch part of it, if the battery happens to die on that, you can still at least tell what time it is, which is really kind of nice.
Yeah, you're right. Now, of course, my wife, she wears her Apple Watch from the time she gets up to the time she goes to bed. And so she, it never has to be charged. It always has plenty of charge left at the end of the day. And I was thinking about her when you mentioned about the possibility of solar panels on the back of a phone, that she keeps her phone almost all the time face down, just so she won't be distracted by notifications. I also think there's, settings, or it will not show notifications when the ambient sensor is covered. And so she generally keeps hers face down. So that would be perfect. And it seems like a market that someone could easily do. There are battery cases that plug into the bottom, get a battery case with a solar panel and keep your phone topped off all day long.
Yeah, much better if it was just built into the device. Apple is considered such a green company. It would be, it's surprising that they haven't thought about that. Take renewable energy one step further. You take a look at the back of the screen on like this MacBook Pro that I've got here. It doesn't have the light up Apple logo like you have on your MacBook Air. Why not make the entire back of the device a solar panel?
Well, I went out of
trickle charge.
I went out of view there for a minute because I was looking for something, or do this, which would be the opposite. I had shown this on a show a few months ago. The little fan on the bottom of the phone that turns.
Yeah.
That's a fan.
I love that thing.
Yeah. But why not have the option, instead of providing power to the fan, a little windmill hold up that
go the other way.
Yeah, exactly. So I just happen to think, because I keep that laying over, it actually works quite well.
Well, it's funny because there was a company a few years back. I did a review on a anemometer that you plugged in to back in those days, it was actually the 30-pin connector, but you plugged it into the iPhone, and then you had an app, and you'd hold this thing up, and you could tell how fast the wind was. And it was really pretty cool. and that's not that much further, out of the realm there.
No, I'd be interested in the anemometer. I'm sure they do it by Bluetooth now and everything.
I would hope so. Yeah,
Yeah.
you could only hope. I've got to look that up. That's being the kind of geek that I am. I'm going to say iPhone anemometer. Oh, here we go. Best iPhone anemometer. So there must be a few of them. Oh, and holy cow. Yeah, there's one. Oh, well, that one wouldn't work because that plugs into a headphone jack. Here's a Bluetooth one, $74. And here's one that doesn't hook up to an iPhone at all, but it's $17. So that's not bad. But a couple others that work with the iPhone. So
That is interesting. You can find about anything manufactured for the iPhone
yeah,
or iOS. So.
yeah, it's kind of been funny because there are some wonderful ideas, and then there are the ones you just kind of look at and go, "What were they thinking when they made this?"
Well, I don't want to forget before we close. Part of the reason I guess if people wonder why we've gone to every 2 weeks or twice a month, I think we have richer show. We've had a lot of things to discuss tonight
Yeah.
and catch up. And don't forget that Friday of this week, the HomePod ships.
Oh yes,
Apple speaker. So.
Wow, I almost totally forgot about that.
It was on my show notes. I actually do homework for our show. I don't just come in and start rambling. I've got notes. I've even practiced my demo that I practiced a demo for tonight. And if we don't get to it, I'll do it next time. It'll keep. And so HomePod shipping February 9th. That was actually my first thing. For whatever reason, I did my notes backwards tonight.
And the big question is, are you getting one? Or are any of our viewers getting one? If you are, leave a note on YouTube and let us know if you got one and how you like it. I'd love to hear it.
I thought it was a little overpriced for a really nice speaker. I usually listen by earbuds, and you just did a broadcasting to the house. And, New York Times review said it was wonderful sound, but they said Siri was inept on it, far worse than the phone.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I got to admit, even though Alexa, and fortunately I'm downstairs, she's probably still up, 2 floors above me going, yes, what do you want? Doing that. But I got to admit, Alexa is much better. You and I have talked about Google now being, just worlds past what Siri is able to do. And I really hope that's another thing that Apple is working on, is trying to make a quantum leap past those other companies, because frankly, it's almost getting to the point now that Siri is getting to be a little bit of a joke.
Well, it is. And I don't think they'll ever reach the levels that the others have, is a lot because of their focus on security and not sharing. Now, a lot of people won't like this, but you can disable it. But like Google now can scan my emails. If it sees a package, it lets me know it's coming, or I can ask it things. And, and that doesn't bother me. I figured it's scanned somewhere anyway to see if it's spam. And Google now, I have a Android phone over here. It doesn't have a SIM in it. I use it more or less as my Google HomePod, if you will. I'll speak to it, and and it can control hardware. I can say, "Hey Google, disable Wi-Fi." "Hey Google, enable Wi-Fi," and it can control the hardware. It really has a deep integration, and I like that. So,
you're talking about HomePod. That reminded me of something that I have not done with the Apple TV. And right now, excuse me, for the last year and a half, I think it's been, I've actually used a iPad mini as my home kit. I don't know, what do you call it? It's kind of like your hub for the home.
Right.
Allows you to be able to get in from outside and, turn the lights off, do all the rest of that stuff. And the Apple TV does that. So I think I need to do that. I think I need to set it up.
Well, something you might be interested in, Steve. I may not give my demo tonight because we're only 5 minutes from an hour, but let me show you real quick, and this might help you. What I was going to demo tonight was how you can customize Control Center and add various things. But one I had on here to do, there's one you see Apple TV. You press and hold it, it brings up the Apple TV remote on your phone.
Nice.
I'll be
Oh,
honest.
I'm going to have to do
Yeah,
this.
I did not know it did that. There's an app, but you just press and hold, and sure enough, you've got your remote control right there on your phone.
And that's
So
perfect for those situations where you've lost that little remote.
the remote is nice. And I'll show some of these other things. I think I'll save this for next time. I've really discovered some good things in here. I'll give one little quick you see up there, it's flash. I had been watching a ball game on the phone and still got
Yeah.
the info for that. And I can do on the phone or Apple TV. I do not have 3D touch turned on the phone. I prefer not to have it, but Control Center has it built in all the time. So I think I'll save this for 2 weeks. And there's some really, really nice things you can do from Control Center. I usually don't have this many. I added them for tonight. But you mentioned Apple TV. If you got one, and I add this, that will really enhance your use of Apple TV. So that will give people a little preview for 2 weeks from tonight. I'll go into these in more detail.
You know, one thing I have to bring up, and you're perfectly aware of it because you've had your Apple TV 4K for a while, but the thing I was totally impressed with was how easy it was to set up.
It was nothing. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you bring the phone over and you kind of go, you know, and it passed everything over there.
I know.
And I was totally shocked. It was like, you know, what happened to the having to go in and try to click all the letters and put in your password, and it takes forever. And wonderful.
Well, you know, I had returned the Apple TV, you know, the saga of that, because of some issues that they'd worked out, but then I rebought it, and I'm so glad I did, and I kept it. It's still here. Use it every day. My wife and I do not have cable, and most of our watching is either YouTube or Netflix or something like that. We watch a lot of YouTube things. And I love the way their YouTube app works. If you watch it from there, you can scrub, and it'll show you little thumbnails as you scrub through it. And I'm often wanting to show her something on my phone, a picture or an app or something. And so I just broadcast it to Apple TV. And, you know, we both have, like here watching, we each have recliners where we can watch a movie. This is our TV theater room that we made. And so I'll often want to show her something, and Apple TV has been absolutely perfect for that.
Nice. And, you know, I tell you, you know, in terms of being able to, you know, just go in and watch things like this, you know, that historical launch today, that the ease of being able to do that was tremendous. You know, when I had the little, whatever you call it, second generation Apple TV, it was really kind of a pain in the rear to be able to do that, because the only way that I could actually do anything was to, you know, pull up the YouTube app on the iPhone or an iPad and then AirPlay it to the device. If the device would actually receive it, sometimes it wouldn't, sometimes it would. Today, I just went YouTube app, boom, did the audio search. I said Falcon Heavy launch. It came up with 6 responses, and I went down. 1 million people were watching the SpaceX stream. Tapped that, and we watched it. And I was just totally impressed. You know, that showed me, you know, how good that is. And I think I may have mentioned I also purchased a device called the Watch Air. It's a digital TV antenna. And what it does is it also has a DVR built in. And what I found out about that is that the DVR is really dependent on how much RAM you add to it in terms of something like a micro SD card or a USB flash drive. Well, it'll take up to a 2 terabyte flash drive. Wow. I was able to find one for $45, plugged it in there. that'll store 1,440 hours of TV.
Wow.
So, unfortunately, things aren't working exactly perfectly right now. So, I think I'm going to do a factory reset on it and then start over in terms of setting it up. But I think that's going to be our answer for a lot of the local TV. And then we're probably going to be looking at something like Sling TV, either blue or orange, I'm not sure which one, as one of our streaming uh, channels. And then probably get MLB TV each year because we like to watch baseball.
Well, same here. I kept the MLB app. It's on the iPhone right now. I mean, on the Apple TV. And if you've got the bandwidth, you may not realize, I'm sure you do, on the Apple TV, the apps work a little different. They're usually more customized. Like the MLB app, I can watch 2 games at the same time, you know, if I've purchased that. But on ESPN app, if you've got the bandwidth, 4 ball games at one time. And of course, you can't do that on the phone, but Apple TV will let you, and it really does look good if you've got the bandwidth to handle forward. I mean, it can be a little bit information overload, but I really like the 2 baseball games side by side. And the neat thing is, whenever I just move my thumb over the control pad on the Apple TV remote, when it highlights one game, it mutes the other and switches audio to this one, but I keep watching the other. So it's really, really nice.
This is horrible. I'm probably going to start watching more TV now.
I tell you, and I may do a little program on this some night. I really like off the wall, I guess, eclectic TV. And because we don't have standard TV, my mother has it in the house, so I could technically watch it. But like I said, we canceled our cable in 2010, never looked back. I watch not only things on YouTube, but I watch a service free. It's called Live Stream, which is a very popular way for people to broadcast. A lot of religious groups and schools do. I find high school basketball games and football games where there's only a handful of people, but they broadcast. Like I was just thumbing through the other night and I found the New Zealand motocross championships. Things that you would never find on, you know, US TV. I found the West Indies cricket championship. It's called Live Stream, but sometime I may do a demo of my favorite non-traditional broadcasting services. There's a lot of neat stuff.
That would be cool. That would be really cool.
I'll do that. I'll get all my ducks in a row, as they say, and demo a few, because it's amazing what is out there to watch. Totally free, and it's it's like traveling the world.
Well, and you know, it's funny because Barb and I, God, that was probably 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, but both of us got really kind of, you know, I hate to say it, but almost addicted to this one iOS app that allowed you to go around and look at webcams from around the world. And, you know, sometimes you would get just a static view, or maybe it would update every hour or something like that. So those weren't very exciting. But then you had things like live streaming from Kruger National Park in South Africa. And, you know, these people are out on safari and they're live streaming this stuff. And those were absolutely fascinating, you know. So I have a funny feeling we're probably going to start doing this again.
Well, I really enjoy it. Ruby and I had found a feed. There was a street corner in Amsterdam, Netherlands, that broadcast 24/7 in high definition, day and night. It was a camera put up at the window of some tech company, and that's all they did was broadcast a street corner. It's a very popular street corner. And we got to watching that, and it was fascinating just to watch and hear the crowd noise. You feel like you're traveling. I love doing stuff like that. It may not be for everybody, but there's a world of visual watching out there that you probably never have imagined.
Well, you know what I'm hoping, and, you know, being a guy who also is into these 360-degree VR cameras, I would love to see companies, or, you know, individuals even, start putting these things out there and live streaming 360-degree images 24 hours a day. Now, the problem with that is, of course, it does take quite a bit of bandwidth. And, you know, to be honest with you, I don't know if some of these cameras that are out there right now would actually survive being up 24/7. But, you talk about virtual travel. What a way to do it. You could put these things around the world, cover them with a solid, bulletproof glass
Yeah.
dome or something like that, put them out somewhere where people could just, go to some place, pan, a lot of these webcams had pan,
Hmm.
tilt, zoom, but having a camera that's capturing all of it at once and being able to wear a VR headset and just look around you,
Yeah, that would be nice. Yeah. That's
great
great. Well,
stuff.
you and I both, maybe a closing note about that, but you and I both broadcast cameras to the internet. It only updates
Yeah,
periodically, but our weather cams do. And so,
yes. Mine's pretty boring at night. All you can see is the reflection of the green light that does that's on the
yeah.
camera. But during the day, you can see my front yard, and occasionally you can see a car going by. You can see there's snow out there. See if Steve's mowing the lawn in the summer.
When I want to know what's going on in that part of Colorado, I always know where to check.
But
So,
it's fun. I kind of get a kick out of that. There was one point in my life where I was actually using an Apple EyeSight camera. And it's the same app I use right now, which is, I think it's EvoCam is the name of it. But it's a Mac app that allows you to go in and you can set up a time period for, I want to take a picture every 5 seconds. I want to save it to a file. And then every 24 hours, turn this group of files into a time-lapse movie. And I used to do daily time lapses. It was fascinating what you would see, and how the weather patterns would come
hmm
in, and just watching that. And I may end up doing that again because I just found it absolutely, one of the more fascinating things I've ever seen. And I don't like the junky little D-Link camera that I've got right now, so I may get something else to replace
Well,
it.
yeah, I've got an Axis. It's many years old. It's only 640 by 480, but and I'm not pitching for them, but I've started using, and part of it I was sent a couple for review that I got to use. They just sent for me to keep Amcrest cameras, and these were maybe like two
Yeah,
meg, and they've got some new 3 meg ones you can buy on Amazon now for only $89, and the optics are absolutely pristine, two-way audio, pan, tilt, and no zoom, but pan and tilt. And so I wouldn't mind replacing a couple of mine with that, putting it
yeah,
out
I've got
there.
some really old pan tilt cameras that I was using, and it was like every time one of them, if the power went out or something like that, or you got a power surge, uh, it took like a day to get the darn thing set up again. And I finally just said, the heck with
Yeah.
that. But who knows? I still have those things. Maybe I'll have to hook them up. If I can get two of them right next to each other, if we can
Yeah.
have stereo vision.
So much to do with the technology that we have today and
And so
bandwidth.
little time.
That's right.
Well,
So,
and speaking of time, we're 7 minutes over, so we'll probably quit for tonight. But it's been kind of a fun
it
discussion. Like you
has.
said,
Yeah.
we haven't really had too much to talk about over the past. Well, we haven't talked for 3 weeks, so I mean, this has been great. In 2 weeks, I think we'll do another one of our hints and tips and cool things shows, because you got to admit that's kind of fun.
Well, it is. I'll definitely do the control panels,
Yes.
some of the neat things I found, and a few other tips and hints. And so by that time, maybe, I doubt it, but maybe iOS 3 11.3 will be out. It does have the battery toggle. The beta that came out today does. I
Yes,
doubt
it
it's
does.
ready within 2 weeks, but it'll be out soon.
You never
So,
know. Yeah, and that will be interesting because my wife's been having battery issues with her
mm.
iPhone 6S Plus. So I'm hoping that she looks at it and says, "Oh my God, I need a new battery," or even better, I need a new phone.
It's tempting with the new batteries, only $29 right now. So
Yeah, that's a heck of a bargain.
it really is.
Well, thanks everybody once again for watching. And Marty, absolutely great to see you again.
Yeah,
It's
you too. And I am sorry about your loss. And
thank
hopefully
you.
tonight's been a little distracting and, distraction for it. So it's always good after any kind of events as such to get back in the routine. It's one of the best things people can do.
Yeah, and I got to admit, one of the cool things that I've been doing, we're putting together we're having a memorial service for my dad on Saturday, and I've been putting together, believe it or not, a keynote presentation, along with a talk that I'm going to do, kind of a eulogy. But it's been great seeing all these old photographs
Mm,
of my dad and his life, and hearing from people that he worked with or who knew him, and it really helps to uh, kind of bring, I won't say closure to this, but bring an extra level of just uh, depth to his life. And it was, you know a fascinating life. The more I look into it, the more, you know
yeah. Well, of course, he
glad
was
to have
also a
known him.
ham radio operator, so I'm sure you
Yes,
got
he
that from
was.
him. So, uh, so
NR0P, silent key.
right. So I'll be looking for his call sign in our magazine QST. It probably,
QST.
yeah, probably doesn't mean a lot to people that aren't hams, but it's our magazine,
But for those of us who are,
the
that's it,
go-to.
man. It is. Well, everybody, we'll, I can't end the show without doing the video. We have to do the video. It's part of
It's
our,
required.
it's required by law. Well, maybe not, but it sounded good. So everybody have a good one. We'll
See
play
you in
the
two,
outro,
two
and
weeks.
see you in 2 weeks that'll be the 20th.
Right. Yep.
Wow, time flies when you're having fun.
Almost March will be then.
Oof. Here we go.